What if the people behind the bombs were not your enemies, but your protectors? What if your fear, your outrage, your grief was all part of a plan? In the shadowy world of post-war Europe, where democracy was young and the Cold War was bitter, a covert operation unfolded beneath the surface, one so secret, so deceptive, that even the governments who hosted it would later deny knowing it ever existed. This is the story of Operation Gladio, NATO's stay-behind army network that operated in silence, trained in sabotage, and in some cases, may have turned its tactics on its own people. After World War II, Europe was fractured. Cities were still in ruins, fascist regimes had fallen, and the looming specter of the Soviet Union cast a long shadow over the continent. In the East, communism had taken hold. In the West, fear of a communist uprising led to desperate measures. To prepare for a worst-case scenario, an invasion by the Soviet Union, NATO, and allied intelligence agencies set up secret paramilitary units across Western Europe. These were known as stay-behind armies. Their mission, to stay behind enemy lines in the event of Soviet occupation, and to launch resistance operations using guerrilla tactics. The operation was coordinated by NATO, and reportedly involved the CIA and British MI6. But the existence of these secret armies wasn't made public for decades. The most infamous of these stay-behind networks was in Italy, and it was called Gladio. Was named after the short Roman sword, a symbol of lethal precision. But its reach went far beyond Italy. From Belgium to Germany, France to Turkey, secret arms caches were hidden in forests. Agents were trained in sabotage, assassinations, and psychological warfare. These weren't rogue cells. They were armed and trained by the West's top intelligence agencies. But as the Soviet tanks never rolled into Western Europe, the purpose of Gladio began to shift course, so some claim. Throughout the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, a wave of terrorist attacks shook Europe, particularly in Italy. Bombings at train stations, marketplaces, and public events left hundreds dead and wounded. Many of these attacks were attributed to leftist extremists, red brigades, anarchists, Marxist revolutionaries. Support for right-wing governments rose. Italian judges and prosecutors digging into political corruption stumbled onto something darker. The attacks may not have been committed by leftists at all. Emergency laws were passed. Fear ruled. The public was terrified. But then, documents began to surface. Whistleblowers stepped forward. The country was stunned. Parliamentary inquiries followed. Weapons caches were discovered. Files were unsealed. But even then, much of Gladio remained in the shadows. Instead, they uncovered signs of a vast network operating behind the scenes, coordinating attacks designed to be blamed on the political left in order to push the public toward conservative, pro-NATO policies. In Turkey, Gladio's equivalent, dubbed the counter-guerrilla, was implicated in political violence, assassinations, and repression. This tactic had a name: the strategy of tension. The Cold War wasn't just fought with missiles and spies, it was fought with ideology. Winning hearts and minds wasn't a shift in public opinion toward communism in France or Italy could mean a new government, a new alliance, and a potential collapse of NATO influence. False flag operations attacks staged to be blamed on others are among the most controversial tactics in any intelligence handbook. If chaos reigned under a socialist banner, the people would beg for order under a capitalist one. If Gladio and its affiliates indeed used this method, then some of Europe's bloodiest incidents may have been deliberate manipulations of public opinion. In Italy, survivors of bombings like the 1980 Bologna train station attack, where 85 were killed, demanded justice. They had lived for years believing they were the collateral damage of radicals. In countries like Belgium and Germany, questions about links between state agencies and extremist groups remain unresolved. The Cold War may be over, but its tactics echo in today's information wars, cyber operations, and disinformation campaigns. And when fear becomes policy, it is often the people who pay the price. Share this video with someone who still believes history is black and white. Leave a comment, tell us what you think about Operation Gladio, and subscribe for more stories where the truth is stranger and darker than fiction. In Turkey, the legacy of the counter-guerrilla became a key part of debates about military influence and politics. To be told they were pawns in a secret political game was an insult beyond grief. That the panic, the bloodshed, the cries of wounded civilians were instruments of political manipulation. In trying to protect the West from communism, secret services may have undermined the very values they claimed to defend. The idea of a resistance force, secretly embedded and ready to strike in case of foreign invasion, was straight out of a Cold War playbook. Files disappeared. Witnesses reeked. Some judges investigating Gladio died in mysterious circumstances. Imagine realizing your protectors were the architects of your fear. Imagine learning that the terror you feared was not foreign, not radical, but domestic and strategic. How much fear was manufactured, and how many lives were sacrificed for geopolitical chess? Operation Gladio was officially exposed in 1990, when then Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti confirmed its existence to the Italian Parliament. And it wasn't just Italy. In Belgium, similar stay-behind units were linked to a series of violent attacks and robberies that had gone unsolved for years. In Germany, France and beyond, the legacy of Gladio raised disturbing questions. How far would governments go to preserve power? Gladio, in its original purpose, might have seemed logical prudent, but when the mission expanded or derailed into influencing domestic politics, it entered ethically and legally dangerous territory. Why would Western powers resort to such methods? The answer lies in context. In that light, fear became a tool. If the public believed that leftists equaled terror, they would cling to the right. This is the dark art of psychological warfare, not just winning a war, but engineering the reality in which the war is fought. For the victims and their families, the revelations were devastating. Parliamentary investigations dragged on for years, but prosecutions were few. Much of the information remained classified. The legacy of Gladio also poisoned public trust. Conspiracy theories multiplied not without reason. In many ways, Gladio did more than train soldiers. It trained the public to doubt everything. Operation Gladio teaches us that the greatest threat to democracy is often the fear of losing it. It shows us the danger of unchecked power, the ease with which noble missions can be corrupted, and the long shadows cast by secrecy. In every nation, the balance between security and liberty is delicate. If this story shocked you, if you believe the truth deserves to be known, don't let it fade into silence. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay informed.